Hey, I'm Gabe.
And I'm Johnny.
Before we start this video, I'd just like to let you guys know once more that now we have a Twitch channel, where I'm currently playing Breath of the Wild on Master Mode trying to finish it 100%. If you'd like to see it live, go to our Twitch channel on Tuesdays at 3 PM and Saturdays at 2:30 PM Pacific time. And if you lost an episode or just don't have time to see it live, go to Super Geek Brothers Player 2 on YouTube to catch up. The links are in the description. Now, onto the video.
The Sheikah, also known as the Shadow Folk, are one of the most important and most ancient races of the Zelda universe, being handpicked by the goddess Hylia herself to be her protectors, with their tribe's formation predating even the creation of the Hyrule Kingdom, then sworn to serve the royal family for their divine bloodline and always proud of their duty to the kingdom. We'll not go into a fully chronological order for this, but rather jumping between games while talking about specific themes and aspects of their tribe.
It is really interesting that such important people rarely appeared in the games. I mean, sure, you hear people talk about them sometimes, and Impa is more often than not always by Zelda's side, be it as an old handmaid or a powerful bodyguard. But the only, and I mean only time we've actually seen a full-on Sheikah tribe was in Breath of the Wild, the most recent installment in the series.
If you stop to think about it, it does make some sense that you don't see them wandering willy-nilly around Hyrule. After all, they are the Shadow Folk. If you haven't noticed by now, the Sheikah are not just like ninjas. They are the ninjas of Hyrule, not only for the way they dress, but also because of their abilities and how they are always acting behind the scenes, aiding in protecting the royal family and consequently the soul of the goddess.
One very good example of the whole behind the curtain thing is their symbol, the Sheikah Eye. It is everywhere around Hyrule, in masks, clothing, tattoos, and most importantly, stones. Gossip stones for that matter. This represents that even though you don't see them, the Sheikah are always there, watching, listening.
Even though Impa was introduced in the series in the very first game, in the manual or did you skip the story, the Sheikah were only mentioned by name for the first time in Ocarina of Time, with Impa being the only one seen in the game and seemingly the last one of her tribe, as Sheik was, spoilers, actually Princess Zelda, a Hylian in disguise.
Somehow, that was not the end of their tribe, and on at least 2 other occasions, she seemed to be the last one. In the past, the return time and time again could point to them being a tribe of Hylians. However, in Breath of the Wild, there are some Sheikah that proved they can easily live at least a few years beyond 100, which clearly separates them from normal Hylians.
Even before there was a kingdom, Impa served the goddess and was essential for her overcomplicated plan to take the mice down, living for unknown generations to complete her quest. However, this longevity seems to far exceed what any Sheikah expects to live in Breath of the Wild, as exemplified by Robbie, who wasn't so sure he would still be around when the hero reawakened. So Impa from Skyward Sword could have been made to live longer with some help from the goddess, and perhaps this could even be the source of their longer lifespan.
Still, magic can only go so far, even in a fictional universe like this. So unless a Sheikah can be randomly born from a Hylian, there must have been other Sheikah elsewhere besides Impa in many cases. Likely Impa descendants among them, as the name was passed forward. They are supposed to know how to hide themselves pretty well after all.
Speaking of names, Impa is not her given name, but a family name, as we learn of the adventure of Link's manual, or did you miss that too? And again in Breath of the Wild, in the twin shrines atop the dueling peaks, we see that they use their family name before of their own, like in many Asian cultures, which ties in nicely with their most recent feudal Japan style.
Most of their past is hidden, forgotten, or even intentionally erased from history. At some point, after Impa aided the first Zelda in wrapping up Hylia's plan to destroy the mice, new Sheikah came forth and supported the newly founded kingdom from the shadows, and passed down prophecies about future heroes through generations. By the time of Ocarina of Time, many thought they were already wiped out, possibly in the war predating the game. Still, a new Impa is now responsible for caring for Princess Zelda, who had to live as a Sheikah to avoid Ganondorf's detection for 7 years. She not only dressed and looked like one, but also learned their tales, skills, and magic.
The Kakariko village of this era was founded by Sheikah, but Impa opened it for Hylians as well. However, hinted mainly through what we can see in the bottom of the well and in the Shadow Temple, both hidden from the public in Kakariko, the Sheikah seem to have had a hand on a much darker part of Hyrule's history. being responsible for the interrogation and torturing of many of Hyrule's prisoners, besides the numerous gossip stones mentioned previously, gathering intel about unsuspecting citizens.
A few generations later, in Twilight Princess, the Sheikah are mostly forgotten and never even mentioned by name, though some characters are heavily implied to have connections with the tribe. The most obvious being Impas, the last villager of the Hidden Village, formerly known as Kakariko, who was named after the one who built said village. She had a lifelong mission from the royal family passed down to her, and has the characteristic white hair and red eyes. Some of the people living in current age Kakariko may also have helped preserve traces of Sheikah culture, even if not Sheikah, maybe even Hylians themselves.
Meanwhile, in Castletown, Fanadi, the fortune teller, has a very evident eye symbol on her forehead. While she could just be using it for her mystic-looking business, she also has red eyes, light hair, and is actually capable of foretelling where the hero should go. She also has 3 colored dots adorning her eyes, which some people think is a hint that other characters in the game with a similar decoration may be hidden Sheikah as well.
The eye unmistakably appears at least twice more in the game, once in the back of the cloak used by Princess Zelda, indicating that she was likely protected too by a Sheikah before Zent's attack on the kingdom. Perhaps it was Sheikah magic that prevented Zelda from transforming into a spirit or a beast. And once in the back of the fused shadow used by Mina, revealing how, at some point in the past, a few Sheikah used their magic to create it to try to steal the Triforce for themselves, before getting banished from the World of Light.
In the Wind Waker, there seems to be no Sheikah present, only remains of their existence, such as the shields displayed on the Forsaken Fortress and the hero's charm, which looks similar to a pair of lenses of truth that fell into possession of Mrs. Mary, the school teacher, who has a pattern resembling the Sheikah eye on her clothes. Though she too doesn't seem to be even a Hylian, she or her ancestors may have had some connection with the tribe. All other instances when we see a Sheikah before Breath of the Wild is always an Impa working as Zelda's attendant, having a high-ranking position in the castle and often guiding Link in his quest.
This finally brings us to current age Sheikah, and one of the most interesting things about them, their technology. You see, these ninjas, very much like real ninjas back in the day, are very ingenious. And not only that, they also have magic. Actual, literal, throw a fireball in your face magic. You know, like real ninjas. Combining these two aspects, the Sheikah managed to create technology that even Elon Musk would be envious of. Case in point, the amazing Sheikah Slate.
Not only it works like an actual iPad, you know, Google Maps, camera, GPS and what have you, but it can also literally freeze things in time, instantly solidify water, levitate objects using the power of magnets, create bombs out of thin air, teleport its user, and even summon treasure chests from another dimension filled with crap that you don't need and hopefully a cool piece of armor from a Link from another era. Okay, maybe this last bit's not actually canon, but still.
Most of these tools are in reality Sheikah magic that they managed to convert into a device that anyone can use. Their technological prowess, however, goes far beyond just a tablet. We made a whole video about their technology that would just take too long to go over now, but they also created every single one of the Guardians you see in Breath of the Wild, and the 4 Divine Beasts, all that 10,000 years before the events of Breath of the Wild. If the Sheikah hadn't been shunned into hiding and been forced to forfeit their technologies by the king of the era, who knows what kind of things they would have come up with.
Around the same time, several Sheikah monks enshrined themselves in some sort of stasis chambers throughout Hyrule, knowing that they could assist a hero in the far future when the calamity returned. If the hero is capable of passing their trials, they will grant him spirit orbs. In most Zeldas, you find pieces of hearts lying around, but whole heart containers are usually taken from defeated bosses. Those spirit orbs may similarly be the last of a monk's life force he gives to Link so he can later use it to enhance himself.
The Sheikah are usually shown to have the characteristics red eye and white hair, or at least very light colored. However, this seems to have changed by the time Breath of the Wild takes place. Their eyes are now of very common colors, but their hair is still white, with the exception of 3 characters. Of course, it's possible there are some variety among them, but I don't think those people are Sheikah by blood, but Hylians that became part of the tribe.
The first is Rolla, the owner of the Curious Quiver in Kakariko Village, who is or was married with Karo, a Sheikah archer who now spends too much time with cuckoos, so she can be a Hylian who adopted the Sheikah lifestyle. Likewise, Jerwin, who married Robbie and researches ancient technology with him, could also be a Hylian, who is half a century younger than Robbie, and together they have a son, Granthei, who kept his mother's blonde hair.
Granthei is a special case, as he may be the first half Hylian, half Sheikah we know, so there could be variations, and some be born with the classic white hair or even the red eyes. But being our only specimen, let's take him as a rule, making Sheikah Hylians go towards the Hylian side. So in some of the previous games, there must have been other Sheikah besides Impa, otherwise they would have been extinct by now.
Now the Yiga clan, who are also Sheikah that split from the tribe, all seem to possess black hair coming out of their hoods. While I don't think their group will refuse any person that wants to serve Ganon, the only information we have is that they are all Sheikah. As we met a former Yiga that rejoined the tribe who has white hair, this could be merely decorative and not their real hair popping out, but I prefer to think the Yiga intentionally dyed their hair black as another form of opposition to the traditional Sheikah.
That brings us to another interesting and most recent point in Sheikah history, the formation of the Yiga clan. You see, after that battle against Calamity Ganon 10,000 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, the king of Hyrule became afraid of what the Sheikah were capable of. So he ordered them to give up all technologies and abstain from creating new ones. Part of the Sheikah agreed to do so and returned to their traditional ways, but some were not so willing to comply.
These rebellious Sheikah were chased by the royal guard and forced into hiding. This sort of inquisition against the tribe made them angry at the royal family and their people who obeyed the king and did nothing to help. So the Shan group decided to abandon the Sheikah name and devote themselves to Calamity Ganon in order to impose revenge, focusing on their fighting skills and magic. Millennia later, when facing the most recent threat of the return of the Calamity, King Rohan tasked the Sheikah who are still loyal to the kingdom to begin researching their ancient technology again to aid in the coming battle.
That's pretty much where we left in Sheikah history. They basically aided Link with pieces of information, the old ones built some shrines, and made a few optional pieces of technology and artifacts here and there. With the sequel of Breath of the Wild right around the corner, or so we hope, I think a lot of the history from 10,000 years ago is gonna be explained in more detail, especially with the tapestry showing what seems to be Link with his whole new Phantom Arm design, as we mentioned in our video analyzing the second trailer of the sequel. So hopefully the Sheikah are gonna play a bigger role in that one, and maybe we'll learn a lot more about them.
Did we leave anything important out? Feel free to add them in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to our channel to get more videos like this one.
See you next time.
Bye!